It's feeding time in the Moran household, so figured I'd try to get a couple videos of some of these guys as they eat and make a couple husbandry videos, because quite frankly, some of these guys are the best time to kind of shoot them is when they're preoccupied with food. I just dropped a cricket in with this one. This is going to be my Poecilotheria formosa. I'm a huge fan of the genus Poecilotheria. A lot of my collection now, probably about a fifth of it, is Poecilotheria species. I think I'm up to about, I want to say 15 to 20 individual specimens. I've had a lot of luck lately with ones that I just kind of bought as slings, and usually when I buy slings, I'll buy more than one, and that's something I recommend to people. If they're trying to get a female, buy, 3 if you can, and usually you have a better shot at getting a female. With a couple of these guys, I just bought one. Like I was buying something from Ken the Bug Guy, and I noticed he had one for sale, and I'm like, yeah, I'll throw one in. I've had very good luck getting females. So again, this is one of my basic arboreal setups that I do with a lot of them. It's basically a sterilite container. It's the ones that are used to hold hanging files. I'm having a very difficult time finding them now, but luckily my son works at the local Dollar General, and they have them there, and they're about $5. And I vent them quite a bit on both sides, although I have been venting them on all 4 sides now. That's something I've changed. I have a piece of cork bark in there, some sphagnum moss, a water dish. You can see my girl sitting right there in back, and I'll get a little glimpse of her in a minute. And then I buy these plants from Petco that I've mentioned in a couple of my other videos that I get for usually about $5 each to give them a little cover. This one's been a little bit more skittish than some of my other pokies. She's been a really good eater, as with all of them. I'm just going to open this up so we can get a shot of her so it's not just me talking to the pink top. One other thing, I've mentioned this in another video. These are actually given to me for a gift. So I wasn't really going to complain. I still like them, but notice the pink tops. I prefer them with the clear top so I can see through. It makes it a little easier when you open them up to not get surprised with a spider like sitting right at the top at you. So you have to be a little extra careful with these. They work fine. If you can't find them with the clear tops, these are just as good for the most part. It's just you're not able to look right directly into it and see where the spider is before you open up. So I'm just going to pop this open now. This could be fun because I did drop a cricket in there. When these guys go, they move pretty quickly. So there she is right there. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Our beautiful species. Now with most of my pokies, they are kept generally in about a 32 ounce, one of those taller deli cups, until they get to be about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Then I move them to something a little bit bigger. Usually I think it's about 2.5 quarts or so. And then usually when they hit about 3 inches or so, I stick them in one of these. And it starts off a little big for them, but they grow into it very quickly. These guys grow fast. They eat like machines. They take down big crickets. I've started feeding some of them the hissers because the hissers, hissing roaches, what I like about them is, unlike the dubia, you don't have to crush their heads, and they will basically just climb around the pen. And the arboreals seem to love that because the hisser will climb right up to it, right on the wall, and they grab them out. So I've been using some of those. Her last meal after when she molted, I think it was about a month ago, I gave her a hisser just to kind of start fattening her up a little bit. So beautiful girl. I'm not sure if any of her purple highlights will show. But again, this is a species that's very, very quick. They're not one to play around with. They have medically significant bites. A bite from one of these guys will likely send you to the emergency room with levels of pain that I've heard are pretty unimaginable. And I consider myself a fairly tough dude. I can take pain, whatever. This is something I do not want to get bit by. So it kind of drives me nuts. People are like, well, if I get bit, I get bit. The heck with that. Keep your hands away from them. Be careful with them. What you can't see right now is I've got the cover of this ready to go down any second. Hopefully she'll snatch up that cricket and give us something to look at. Just gonna get a little bit closer before I close it up. Just a word about substrate. I give them a couple inches of substrate. When it starts off, it's usually moist, but I let it dry out in between. And again, I've kept a lot of these guys from slings right to adults now, and they do fine with the drier substrate as long as there's water in there. I will overflow the water dish every once in a while, but for the most part, it's dry, and they seem to do great. So if you pick up one of these, don't freak out and try to add a bunch of extra moisture to it. I haven't seen any real benefit, except you're going to introduce, possibly mold if you're not really thorough, and these guys can be tricky with trying to get boluses out and stuff, and just make it much more difficult for yourself than it has to be. So there she is. I'm going to go ahead and close this for a minute. This one, I got her molt right now, and I do plan on sexing her molt, but pokies, you can usually tell ventrally when they get to be about 2.5, 3 inches or so, because they have a nice big white line there. Let's see if it comes out in here. Yeah, there she is. I'll just go ahead and click on that. And you can see the nice slit there. So beautiful girl. Love the pokies. I'm going to try to do one of these for a lot of my pokie species. Now, I found of all the species I keep, honestly, the ones temperament-wise that are the most beginner, I'd call them beginner pokies. My Vittata is fantastic. And my regalises are also fairly calm. And then from there, they get a little sketchy. My Metallica, I've actually been blessed with a Metallica that's generally very, very easygoing. I'm going to turn the flashlight off for a minute, see how this looks. Well, there she is in kind of silhouette. My Metallica is generally pretty calm and stays out all the time. My Ornata, little bit loopy. That's one I don't want to play around with. And of course, it's going to be one of the bigger ones. So again, with any of the Poecilotheria species, the key is being cautious. I do find when they bolt, they tend to go, and I've mentioned this before, they kind of go around the enclosure, so they'll kind of scuttle around, which is why I like the top opening containers, because it gives me a nice wide area to work. God forbid one should shoot out of the container while I'm working on it. My hands most likely won't be in the way because of the top of it. And I honestly like the fact that there's no doorway, because I have used the other arboreal enclosures that have the doors that open outward toward me. And I feel like I'm just putting myself in danger of being fired at by a pokey cannon, because they'll circle and go straight out that enclosure. So again, this one's been great. I think I've had her now for, I want to say, about 7 months or so. She's molted several times in my care, almost like clockwork. Puts on good size each time. Just a great spider to keep for people that are used to the faster moving, faster moving tarantulas with medically significant bites. So it's something not to be trifled. This is a species I would not trifle with. The whole genus is one that I wouldn't trifle with if you aren't familiar with working with these kind of guys. If you're getting into pokies, start off with something like a Regalis or a Vittata, and just be very cautious. Don't be scared of them. I think the trick is to not be frightened of them, but to be cautious and to make sure that you don't make mistakes, because this is one that will send you to the hospital with a bite. Not trying to alarm anybody, but just so people are aware. This isn't like what they say when you read on the internet, that their tarantula bites are like a bee sting. This is not like a bee sting. It's going to hurt a lot and could, have negative repercussions for quite some time after the bite. So this is my Poecilotheria formosa, beautiful arboreal species, wonderful spider, and hopefully I'll be able to do kind of a series of some of the other pokies I got so you can see the differences of them.